Guys, I'm doing another Fight Archives video, and the Fight Archives that I'll be pulling up and I'll be reviewing the fight will be Mike Tyson vs Donovan Ruddock 2. So Mike Tyson vs Donovan Ruddock 2 was billed as the rematch. It was a professional boxing match contested on June 28th, 1991. Now, prior to this, obviously, this is obviously a rematch coming from the first fight. The venue was the Mirage in Paradise, Nevada. There were no titles on the line. However, these were the number 1 and number 2 ranked contenders in the world. And they were fighting to be number 1 for Evander Holyfield's heavyweight titles. So the winner of this fight would definitely fight Holyfield. And the kind of background to why this was a rematch was because obviously 3 months earlier, Tyson and Ruddock, who were boxers number 1 and number 2 ranked heavyweights, had fought each other to determine who would face Evander. Mike actually was awarded the victory via technical stoppage in round 7 after he hit Ruddock with a series of power shots where Ruddock was rocked, and Richard Steele stepped in and stopped the fight, despite the fact that Ruddock had not been knocked down but appeared to be healthy prior to the stoppage. In the actual fight, Ruddock was down twice. The first knockdown wasn't a knockdown, it was a slip, but was counted as a knockdown. And the second one was a legitimate counter punch where Tyson dropped him. The fight was quite competitive. Ruddock was fighting in spurts, but Tyson was outworking and was definitely ahead in the scorecards prior to the stoppage, and was definitely beating up Ruddock. But Ruddock was holding himself in quite tough. He was holding in and he was hitting Tyson with some good combinations. I think round 4, round 6 was quite good for Ruddock, but Tyson controlled him and was outworking him most of the rounds with the combinations. And the problem with Ruddock in that fight was that he was resting too much in the clinches and wasn't punching enough. And Ruddock was somebody who would tend to use the same punch quite over and over again, which Tyson was seeing, which was the smash punch, the left hook, and his left hook and his left uppercut. That was it, that he kept it. But obviously it was quite controversial because Ruddock was still on his feet, and yeah, it was quite a few hits, but the stoppage just seemed a little bit premature, which I thought it was as well at the time. The decision caused an uproar. Ruddock's brother and manager Delroy and his promoter Murad Muhammad was Ruddock's promoter, and he was one of the guys that actually got into the ring after the first fight and was going crazy. There was a big riot. Guys were jumping in. Fights were having. So shortly after the announcement, a rematch was cancelled as Muhammad was suspended because of his part in, the big brawl. But nevertheless, it was announced 10 days after that 2 men publicly expressed their dislike and their view to get the rematch on. So these guys wanted the fight. These guys definitely wanted it. And I said, I always like to, when I do these videos, have a look back leading into this fight. Obviously, it's a rematch, so we can kind of look into the first fight, but the mentality of the fighters coming into this fight, we can look into it. So Donovan Ruddock, obviously he had fought Mike Tyson. I think his best win before that was probably James Bone Crusher Smith. He got knocked down in that fight actually and got back up to win it actually. But yeah, he fought Mike Tyson. He had a good win. He only lost early in his career to David. I think it was David Jacko, who Ruddock lost to early in his career. But listen, coming into the rematch for Mike, he obviously was dropped in the first fight and it was stopped, and he, his smash punch. Oh, actually no, that wasn't his best opponent. His best opponent was what am I saying? Sorry, guys. I want to make sure it was Michael Dokes. It was a brutal knockout. Michael Dokes was definitely his best win. Sorry about that. That was a brutal knockout, a brutal one, where he just, I don't know what the referee was doing. That one should have been stopped because he literally gave Dokes a real double combination left hook to the head, and Dokes he looked like he was dead. As in, even when he didn't go down, he looked gone. You know, it was very similar to the if you guys right now would think, I would suppose the Derek Chisora Spilka knockout, quite similar. Not as this one was way brutal, but it was kind of like the similar kind of ending. So coming into this fight, Ruddock definitely had the notability of having that power. He was a tall guy, but he wouldn't use his jab that much. You know, he was really reliant on his left hook. The speed and the combination of that punch was really good, and his uppercut was quite good. So Ruddock coming into the first fight, you know, he showed that he could take Tyson's power because he got back up, but he just wasn't able to outwork him. And Tyson seemed to have the better stamina. So going into the 7th round where he did get stopped, Tyson was the fresher, but he did hit Tyson with the combination a few times, the left hook and the uppercut. Tyson's always been susceptible to uppercuts, so it was a punch that Ruddock definitely thought he could exploit. So now going to Mr. Mike Tyson's previous form coming into the Ruddock rematch. Obviously, Tyson had who did Tyson actually fought? Sorry, Tyson had fought. Yes, so he fought Ant Stewart and Henry Tillman, and he stopped him obviously. And he was kind of back into business. Obviously, prior to that, he lost to Russell Douglas in Tokyo, where he lost all his titles. And that fight, it wasn't exposed, but it was clear to see that there was a blueprint to beat Tyson. He wasn't happy, you know, the jab. If you can put a consistent jab in him and put him at bay and fire quick uppercuts and stay out of range like Buster did, then Tyson can be susceptible to that. But he showed in the Tillman and the Stewart fight that he still had the firepower. And a lot of people kind of really brushed off the Douglas loss and were saying, look, you know, it's just it was just a blip. It wasn't a big thing. So, you know, and he didn't look amazing in the Ruddock fight in terms of his combinations, the first fight. You know, he was getting hit more than we expected, and his head movement was not as good as it used to be. So there was a decline in his actual boxing form. It was still enough to beat someone like Razor Ruddock. So, you know, it wasn't like Tyson did what he needed to do. So coming into this fight, both guys, the weigh in Mike was 216, which was quite good for him. I always question, because this fight was obviously 3 months after the first fight, did Tyson kind of overtrain and did it wear and tear him? Because it just seemed like obviously coming into this fight, you need to recover, and he's obviously had back-to-back training camps going hardcore. So was that a bit of fatigue coming in? Probably. But the same with Razor Ruddock, he hit him at 238, which was a good weight for him. So both guys were coming in good weight. It wasn't, you know, both guys were in shape, were ripped, and it was looking to be a good fight. You know, I think Riddick Bowe was on the undercard. I can't remember who he was fighting, but so the actual fight, and let's break down the fight. So the fight was fought in the full distance. Tyson ultimately picked the victory via unanimous decision, where the judges scored it 113, 109. Two scores had it 8, 114, 108. Tyson got off to a strong start in round one. He staggered Ruddock, and Ruddock was holding on. Tyson 3 punched at Ruddock, who in turn responded with a powerful right hand. And it was quite a back and forth. And it was good. There was a lot of good exchanges in this fight. It was a lot of good exchanges. Late in the round, Tyson went on to hit Ruddock with a 3-punch combination. Ruddock was against the ropes. And in this fight, there was a lot of punches that were below the belt, especially from Tyson. Ruddock would respond. Lane would warn Tyson, hit Ruddock with a strong right hand, which Lane would warn both the fighters. Tyson would continue to hammer Ruddock with 30 seconds left in the round, and Ruddock would bounce back strong around 3. But in round 4, Mike would throw a counter uppercut and sent Ruddock to the count. And it was a fantastic counter. It was a very good counter. You know, one of the best counters you're going to get. You know, Ruddock threw a punch, Tyson blocked it, and then boom. And Ruddock was on the ground, got back up, fought hard. One thing about Razor Ruddock is I've never seen someone get off the canvas as good as Razor Ruddock. You know, you watch Razor Ruddock, he's Tommy Morrison as well. This guy got hit with a tremendous left hook and he got back up straight away. Like Ruddock, like what made Razor Ruddock so crazy was that he wouldn't like take time to, recover. He would just jump straight back up. Maybe that was his downfall, I suppose. He did that against Dokes. Not Dokes. He did it against Bone Crusher Smith. Got back up. Tyson fights. He got back up. One thing about this fight is that it was a very crazy fight to score because points were getting taken off left, right, and center. Tyson had points, about 3 points deducted in round 4 for landing a low blow on Ruddock. Tyson would also lose points around 9 and 10, hitting Ruddock with another low blow, hitting him after the bell. So it was quite a wild fight. Both guys had a bit of animosity coming in. Tyson, it was Tyson's fight where he said, "I'll make you my girlfriend," which was quite big at the time in terms of trash talking, which was quite funny. But Tyson knocked him down again. Tyson would fight Ruddock aggressively in an attempt to gain the knockout victory because with all these points getting taken off in later rounds, Tyson was winning the fight because he was out winning, and again, he was just out punching. But because he kept losing points, it was some sort of in the balance in terms of near the end of the round who would actually get it. And Ruddock, just to bear in mind, Ruddock broke his jaw in this fight. His jaw was broken, and Tyson busted his equilibrium in this fight. So this was a hard-fought war. This was definitely more competitive than the first fight. Tyson was getting hit way more in this fight. Ruddock was getting hit. Ruddock was staying in there, and they both showed tremendous toughness because Ruddock busted his jaw. Tyson broke his equilibrium, but they were going at it. Ruddock's left eye was swollen. But yeah, they both made it to the end of the fight, and I think well deserved. Tyson won most of the rounds. He didn't look that great, because Ruddock showed. Ruddock was tough. Ruddock was tough. He didn't come just to lay down. He actually came to fight. But Mike just had the more tools in that. One thing with Ruddock was that he just kept relying on his smash punch. He didn't have the greatest right hands. Didn't have the quickest feet. And like I said, he had a bit of a stamina issue because he would tend to not be able to work for the full rounds. And again, he didn't utilize his jab properly because he was fighting with Mike in the inside. And anybody that fights with Mike in the inside is susceptible to getting hit. Ruddock got hit, got back up. But Mike was just beating him down. But then again, he did respond quite well. He showed his tough. He hit back with Mike and he hurt Mike a couple of times. He made Mike come push back. But Mike showed quite a good chin in this fight because he was taking the smash punches clean. Mike, his head movement was non-existent. Mike was not moving his head. He was bobbing and weaving here and there, but not as much as he did prior to the Buster Douglas fight. But he was taking licks. And Mike showing a good chin. He took the smash punch clean. He busted his equilibrium, but still went hang in there. So both guys showed tremendous toughness. Just have to keep emphasizing it because it was a hard-fought fight. But Mike got the victory, and Ruddock was, they were cool after the belt. They hit the amount of low blows in this fight. It was crazy. It was hard to. I was when watching this fight, you kind of thought to yourself, who's actually going to win? Because it was such a back and forth, but it was such a weird turn of events where so many points were getting deducted. But Tyson won it, fairly comfortable on the scorecards, and I think that the fight was a tough fight. It wasn't an easy fight for Tyson at all, but his firepower and his arsenal just got him through it. And for Ruddock, took a hell of a lot of punishment in this fight. And to be fair, I don't even think it was the same fight after this fight. The man broke his jaw. The man's eye was swollen. Ruddock looked completely spent. And his punch resistance was really never the same. Got stopped in a couple rounds against Lennox Lewis, and Tommy Morrison and other guys stopped him, and his punch resistance kind of went down after this fight. But yeah, that's it. That's Mike Tyson, these Razor Ruddock 2. Build the rematch. It really lived up to the hype. It went into 12 rounds. But Razor Ruddock showed his toughness. Mike showed that he still has the chin, the toughness, and the power to overwhelm his number 2 contender, and in route get a title shot at Evander Holyfield. So let me know what you guys think and what other fights I should do. I'm out.